All right, so perfect. Thank you. And welcome to the IBC and IEBC tag meeting. John, do you mind going through roll call?
Sure. All right, we'll start with you, sir. Andrew Klein.
I'm here.
Sue Kaufman.
Here.
Mark Sniffen.
Present.
Welcome, everyone. Sean Carlstrom. All right, Corey Thomas. Thought I saw Corey.
I'm here, yes.
Todd Byruther. Is Todd here? Do not see him. Let's see, Robert Draper. Robert here. Chris Seaman.
Here.
Welcome, Al Spalding.
Here.
Saw Al. Welcome, and Michael Barth. I don't think I saw Michael. So let's see, it gives us 1, 2, an alternate. So yes, we have 5 and an alternate. So we have a quorum.
Perfect. So anyone else who's joining us want to introduce yourself? Now's the time.
Sure, I'll go ahead. Terry Beals, good morning, everyone, representing Sound Transit. Good to see you again,
Terry.
Corey.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Andrea Smith with the BIAW.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, this is Charlie Calvano representing the architects.
Thanks, Charlie. All righty, next up is review and approve the agenda. So that's up on the screen. Anyone want to make a motion?
It's Chris. I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Chris.
This is Al, I'd second.
Thank you, Al. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Is anyone opposed? And motion passes. So let's see, you did have the minutes up on the screen. Here we go. Take a look through there, make sure they're accurate, and if so, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you, Sue.
This is Al, I'll second.
Thank you, Al. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And is anyone opposed? And motion passes. So next up are the reports.
So you have PDF copies of the reports. You have the worksheet. So this is the Excel spreadsheet we'll be using today. The existing amendments reports are, I think, done because there were a few missing parts. I tried to incorporate everything, but most of the all TAC recommendations are there. So the reports are here today. If you can take the last look, and we need to vote. You need to vote on the reports to approve them.
All right. So yes, Stoyan sent those out. This should be relatively simple. It just went through what our findings were that we'd already discussed.
If you see something that is not right, let me know. If there are sections with questions, it's okay. The report will go. Even if the report is approved, these questions are for staff, so staff will do the research later. So that's not big of a deal.
Did anyone have any questions or comments? And If not, is anyone ready to make a motion?
I'm sorry, Andrew, just I forgot something. So there is one cell with reference to section 6.1.6.1.1. So this is being taken care of. So that I'll remove the color.
Okay, thank you. And Stoyan, did you want separate motions or did you?
Separate motions for both reports, yes.
Okay. And again, any questions? Does everyone understand what we're voting on?
Yeah, just for clarity, Andrew, this is chapters 15 on. We already did the ones earlier, right?
Yes, the
Okay.
ones earlier, they were non-structural provisions, and these are only the chapters with structural provisions.
Perfect. Okay. Now I know. Now I'm caught up.
This group 1, group 2 is new for me as well, so I'm just trying to fit in.
Okay, cool. Then if you're ready, I will make a motion to approve the notes on existing IBC amendments as shown.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sue. Any further discussion? And then I didn't take comments from the public if there were any, so I'll give an opportunity now if there were any comments. Alrighty, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, anyone opposed? And motion passes. So next up, same thing for the existing building code. Stoyan, any highlights you wanted to go over?
No, if you have found something, yes, but if there is nothing, no. There are some comments for stuff here, but we'll take care of it. It's the comments are part of the report, so we'll follow up on that.
Okay. Any questions or comments, including from members of the public? Are we ready for a motion then?
I'll
This
move.
is-
Oh, go ahead, Al.
Thanks, Chris. This is Al. I'll move to accept the IEBC tag existing amendment review report as shown.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And is anyone opposed? Motion passes.
The significant changes reports will be a little bit more difficult. So what happened, we discussed many of the chapters, and the bad part on our side, the council staff, I guess we didn't do good notes. So when I started incorporating, whatever was discussed, I found out that some of the chapters are missing. The information wasn't there. I didn't find it. So I tried to fill the gaps, but I still have chapters that I didn't have any information, and I added a few by myself, but there were too many changes, so I couldn't finish it. So today, if you recognize something that you did your part and I don't have the information, we can, you can send it to me. We can discuss it today, and then I will incorporate the changes. if I'm going over chapters that were discussed and we don't have the final approval, but you believe the chapters were discussed and I'm just repeating, let me know. And I apologize for that mistake. We a little bit underestimated the significant changes reports.
Stoyan, to clarify, do you need, there's clear where there's stuff missing, but do you need tag comments and recommendations filled in on all of them? Or if it says, no, there's not a cost impact and no, we don't need an amendment, is that sufficient? Or do we need to go back in and get something in that column H?
No. So if you believe there is something important that you need to make a comment and have it in column H, you can do it. But if it's NN, then it's NN. If it's amendment needed,
then we probably need something. That makes sense.
We may need something, yes.
Okay, cool.
So we went over, I think, chapter 15, but again, I can't guarantee that I incorporated everything that was discussed. Some of these comments are mine, others I found in the notes that, we went through this chapter. So I want to start with chapter 15 and we can go over. If there are not any questions about 15, we can go to 16 until we hit a chapter with no information. And then what we can do with this chapter, if the chapter is not assigned to anybody, I will ask for volunteers. If there is no anybody to volunteer, I can do it and I can have it ready for the next meeting. John, myself, both of us, whatever. We need to approve this significant changes report by February 16th. That's, again, we're a little late and it's our fault.
Sure. Well, I'm fine with that path forward if you want to begin.
Andrew, do you think it might be easiest? I know for me, I will remember if we go through it like I did chapter 15. So I'll remember the discussions probably more because I was talking at the time and listening to feedback from other people. So maybe, do we want to go through each chapter really quick with whoever kind of compiled it to start with, if they're here, maybe?
That's
Just
a
to
good-
see
Yeah,
if like,
I- Yeah, well, I think that was
That's
what
what-
you described, right, Stoyan? Or
Okay.
Yeah, this is, yeah.
okay.
then I'm ready then, I guess, if we want to do that. What I see on the screen reflects what I remember talking about. If we want to keep scrolling down. Yeah, I remember talking about the aggregate and then everybody going, no, that's not a big deal. Not really. Yeah, that looks right. Looks right. Yeah, all that looks right to me from what I remember talking about. And I don't think we need any particular clarification on the right-hand side for any of it, except for that parapet one. That was the one that I was totally unaware of kind of what they were talking about. So that's helpful. Do you want to do them chapter by chapter, approving
Well,
through in case we can't
yes.
complete it? Okay.
Chapter by chapter, yes.
So I would say,
you don't need to vote on it today. Again,
Okay.
I will get it finalized for the next meeting, and I hope I will have it completed by then.
cool. Yeah, so from my perspective, I'd say chapter 15 is good. Let's move on.
That's a good start.
Okay, so I may not remember quite as well as Chris. I'm older, so, but let's see. Mixed occupancy. I apologize. I've got a lot of construction noise going on in the background here. This is mixed occupancy buildings with assembly spaces are now risk category 3. And yeah, we did discuss this, and we don't need the an amendment for this table because it has been modified by the national code. Load combination strength and allowable stress design combination deleted, which while direct reference to chapter 2 has been added. Yeah, I don't think we need an amendment to this one. Weight of materials of construction, modifies title.
For 1607, 11.4, I put the question here in the cost. I think I put the cost there, and I wasn't sure. I didn't feel knowledgeable enough on that. 1607.10. I'm sorry, 1607.11.4.
So rope descent system and anchorage has been added to the section on fall arrest and lifeline anchorage. Yeah, I would add costs. OSHA adopted new regulations that specifically require all anchorages of rope descents to be able to support. I don't think we need an amendment to it. So yeah, it would be additional cost.
Okay.
Live loads used in the design of ladders not been previously specified. Containing has been added to the IBC. The addition of yeah, I don't think we need any amendments to it.
The last, sorry.
Snow loads, do we have any, you know, I know City of Tacoma has an amendment for our ground snow loads. We use a roof live load versus a ground snow load. I don't know if anybody has some knowledge about the other, you know, if I don't think we had a state amendment for snow loads, did we?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Shower water table. That's not for you to adjust absolute loads and hydrants. Required determination loads. I don't think we need design. Secondary drainage system rain loads have been updated to be consistent with ASCE 7. So it would probably, yeah, there probably is additional costs, but I would say we don't need you know, we don't need a state amendment unless, you know, like SEAW wants to propose something. I would say we just stick with the base code, which would require secondary drain systems to be designed consistent with ASCE 7. Design of hydrostatic was on microwave wall is required. So yeah, these are again, yes, 1612.4 is yes. You know, so you're increasing the hydrostatic loads on the walls. So, but I don't think we need a state amendment. Okay, so yeah, that kind of takes care of significant changes on chapter 16.
All right. Thank you, Sue.
Uh, 17, did we have somebody who worked on 17? I know I worked on this one that you see because I didn't find any information from any tag, but it doesn't mean we didn't lose it.
I don't remember us talking about it, but I don't think we so noisy.
Okay, I can go over it, and I tried to provide a little bit more information just to outline the changes. So it may seem too much, but at least for this meeting, I want to let you know what my thinking was at that time. So the structural observations. These are two sections, 1704.6 and 1704.6.1. And you have the definition there. And my evaluation was that there is no cost associated with it, and we don't need to make any amendments. And again, the structural parts of the code are not my best area of expertise, so feel free to correct me if you see something wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that we need any state amendments, and it's good to have that clarification of between structural observation and special inspection.
Okay, the next one is it's in the table 1705.3. The table is the table outlines the required spatial inspections and tests of concrete construction. So spatial inspection requirements for precast concrete diaphragm connections is added to the list of general concrete spatial inspections and tests. I put the question mark there because it seems like this is a new spatial inspection, but it will be added to the rest of the inspections that are already a mandate. And when you already have the inspector there, I don't know how much time this particular inspection will take, and I don't know if it adds any money, any cost with this new requirement. So I wasn't
Yeah, anytime you're adding new special inspection, there is additional cost. So I would just say yes, but I don't think we need an amendment.
And
Okay.
maybe if we're looking at costs, Stoyan, and like the whole idea behind special inspections, if whenever we say yes and we don't have a reason why we don't think it's a bad thing, it enhances safety. And then also special inspections really help the developer and builder move along with their construction faster. And that way they're not waiting on the building department to do this for them. So it speeds up construction, which is why it's okay to cost more money, if that makes more sense.
Well, but in the long run, it will cost more money for the spatial inspection. It will save some money, I guess, on the building permit. Is that?
It's not that it saves money, it saves them
It's
time.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
if they were waiting on the building inspector to do all of these special inspections, because somebody has to inspect it, right? So if you're waiting for the jurisdiction to show up and be there all day, it's just not doable, and it would slow us all down. So every time we have a special inspection, it enhances safety, and it speeds the project up because it makes it easier for the jurisdiction's inspector to do their job fast.
Lesson very well taken. The next one is 1705.4.1. This is for glass unit masonry and masonry veneer. It's in risk category 4. So my recommendation here is no cost and no amendment is needed, because one spatial inspection was taken away, no longer required. The next two, 705.5.3 and 705.2, they're somehow related, and I have cost associated with this new requirements, and no need for new amendment.
Yeah, Stoyan, I would say those came in probably because of the new construction type. So it's a new inspection type because of the new construction type that's allowed. So it's a cost associated with being able to do mass timber, which is new also.
Okay. And if we don't get something right here, we have time. We'll have about 2 months submittal period, and you will have the opportunity to go over these reports again, and staff will have the opportunity to evaluate one more time. So if we get something incorrectly, then we can submit a proposal, or we can correct the report a little bit. So we have time to make changes, but we need to finalize the reports by the next council meeting, because the council needs to approve the reports, and then we need to open the submission period for new proposals. That's the goal.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just thinking ahead from, we have to be able to defend anything, or you have to, or the council has to be able to defend anytime there's an increased cost and we don't have an amendment that's needed. There should probably be a justification. Just from if somebody comes to testify against it, we would have something quick to go, oh, this is why.
Okay.
Just from thinking about how we can swat away any comments that are not really appropriate. But if you don't have something prepared, you're going to have to make something up or get pushed around potentially, whoever's in that position.
Okay. The next one is with cost 1705.1. It's a new section for deep foundation elements. And I have yes for cost and no for amendments, new amendments.
I don't think we need any amendments. It is additional costs, but I guess, yeah, that's where they appear to be under strength. And yeah, I mean, I think it's probably something that you would require anyway, but it's nice that it's in the code now, that, you know, so we don't have to try to argue with somebody about it.
The next one, storage racks. It's a clarification in the language, so I don't think there is cost or any further need for amendments. And 1705.18, in addition to the section renumbering, this is related to fire resistant penetration and joints. So the rationale for the change is the installation of fire stops, fire resistant joint systems, and perimeter fire barrier systems in residential use buildings now require special inspection in group R fire areas having an occupant load exceeding 250. So my first thought was yes, because we have a new special inspection added, but you know, if there are more experienced people than me on this one, so
yeah, you are correct. It is yes. I know from our perspective, you know, and this has been discussed with other jurisdictions in, you know, with WABO, is that, yeah, it's way too much work for an inspector. I mean, there's just, for, you know, big residential projects, it's just, you know, you really need a special inspection to help get those, you know, inspections done of the penetrations and joints. It's just, you know, when you've got, you know, a lot of units in one building, it's too much for the inspector to try to manage that on a, I mean, they'd be out there all day for one project, so.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that there's cost increase on the base code, but we in Tacoma and other jurisdictions have already been requiring this under the where the building official says also do these special inspections. There's that section that allows us as a jurisdiction to require additional special inspections. So in practice, jurisdictions have been requiring this. So I think this adds clarity also, and for the same reasons as Sue said, it speeds up the construction by allowing them to do special inspection on it.
okay. The next 1, 2, 3
All right, looks good to me. Sounds like no comments.
So for chapter 18, Sue was working in this chapter. I found the first section 1807.2.2, but it seems like we were mixing the existing amendments with the significant changes, and because this was the only section I found, I think we didn't incorporate all the information that was there, because chapter 18 has more than one significant change.
Yeah, this may be something that I need to take back and work on over the next week and get back to you.
Okay, and feel free to let me know. You're under construction there, so you don't have time. Let me know and we'll work on it.
Oh yeah, this is just at my house. I'm not doing the work there. It's just the noise.
And 19 was yours too.
Okay, well,
Do you-
it looks like, wow, I got lots of them, huh? 18,
you got-
19, 20.
You got lots of them, yes.
Okay,
So,
so I'll take a look at those this week.
let's do it this way. Take a look and pick, whatever you want, and give me the rest.
Okay.
Okay. $24.
Yeah, that was me, I think, when I scroll down there. That looks like I remember. I don't remember either of those being anything too critical as far as needing something done.
Let me check the significant changes. Give me a sec. I don't see anything significant in the ICC significant changes book. So I guess this all we have.
Perfect. Yeah, so that's good. That's looks good to me.
For chapter 25, I see 25.10.6.1 and the significant changes, and we have it. And 25.10.6.2. So it's been, everything is captured there. The only,
This is Mark speaking. I think I did that section, but my notes are buried back in some other books, so I'll have to look them up. But I believe that was all significant change.
I added some information from ICC. So the tag comments, where you see the comment there is not really a tag comment. I just wanted to provide some more information from the significant changes, ICC significant changes. But these are the only sections that I saw being amended. in the model code. And I think this is all for the building code. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters, and I'll coordinate with you after she decides how many she wants to take. If you don't want to take any, let me know. We'll work on it. Or if somebody else wants to help, that's will be appreciated as well.
Are there any volunteers? Yeah, well, Julian, we can talk afterward if
Okay.
you need help.
Okay, so let's move to IEBC.
I think I
I-
had the first few chapters. If I'm
Yes,
right.
and I think chapter 1, 2, and 3, I think I got them right. I got the information. So 1, 2, and 3 were discussed. So let's start with chapter 4. With chapter 4, we don't have much actually. 405.2.4. 401.1.1. The cost is for 405.2.4. So this is related to the repair. I think there is a cost associated because it's about the substantial structural damage, and it's a new provision. Currently in 2018, what is enforced in 2018, the consideration of snow load effects was only required when substantial structural damage was caused by snow loads. Well, it changes the approach. So now, regardless of the snow load, if it's caused or not by snow load, it will require the calculations. So that's, in my opinion, it's a big expense.
Yeah, that sounds like an expense too, but it seems pretty logical. I think that's why we said no on the amendment. I mean, who cares why it broke? Put it back. Good. If it blew over, let's still put it back together so that it can hold up snow loads.
Okay.
Yeah, if snow loads are I don't know how often snow loads are a critical path on design, honestly, but I'm not a structural engineer. But probably at some point it would matter.
I'm not a structural engineer either, so I assumed there would be cost, but
At some point, but I don't know how, like, we don't have Midwestern snow loads, so maybe it's not so bad. That would be nice to know if it wasn't so bad, just to be able to tone down the, it's really not a big deal. Would be better to
Well,
say if we could.
We have Eastern Washington and Northern Washington, so don't forget, this is not just a Western Washington issue.
Oh, yeah. We just don't have any lake effect
There
3 feet of
is a
snow.
lot of, there are areas of Washington that have significant snow. So, you know, Mount Rainier, for instance, you know, so yeah, for sure it needs to be, yeah, it's an issue. So.
Okay, we'll keep it as is. Chapter 5, I didn't find if somebody did anything, so I worked on it. I have 1, 2 sections with cost. So the first one is related to the classroom acoustics. So it refers to ANSI A117.1. So when you refer to the accessibility provisions, there is always cost associated with it. So there is a cost versus there is a need for these new requirements.
Yeah, I agree.
I didn't find a need for amendment.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect so either. I mean, just you have to align with the A117.
So the next one, 503.4, it just adds additional exception. So I didn't see any cost. I didn't see any need for amendment. 503.12, again, it adds a new exception. So I didn't see any need for amendment or any associated cost with it. 503.17, it's a new section, but it's a reference. So it provides a reference to the requirements in the building code to provide special allowances for educational occupancies with regard to door lock mechanisms. I compared with IBC. I read the new requirement. It seems like, if it's required in one code, it's a coordination thing. So I didn't find any costs associated with it and any need for a state amendment.
Yeah, I agree.
503, I'm sorry, 506.4. Again, this is another new section. It's related to existing emergency escape and rescue openings. The new provisions allow the use of existing and smaller replacement windows for emergency escape and rescue openings within a change of occupancy when applying both the prescriptive and work area methods. So basically, this language exists in other codes. I think it was added to the residential code as well. In my opinion, it reduces the cost. It doesn't increase the cost. The next one was a little bit difficult for me to swallow. This is related to the seismic force resisting system. The change is an upgrade threshold is added when changing from group S or U occupancy to another occupancy. So now with this new section, the change of occupancy triggers analysis of the need of seismic upgrade while allowing the use of reduced seismic loads. Again, I'm not a structural engineer. It seems like logical to me. And I consider this has a lot of additional cost, although this is a safety measure, but I will let the professionals talk about this. Again, I wasn't. I guess it was trying to close a loophole that currently exists.
I think this makes a lot of sense, especially, for Washington high seismic area. We definitely want to close loopholes when they're changing documents.
This is
I-
Todd. I wasn't aware of this, but this makes a lot of sense to me also. And this is a California problem, especially where you have soft story garages. And if that's what they're trying to address, then makes sense. But yes, there's a cost.
Yes, there were similar issue in California based on the ADU law, and I was told that something similar exists in Washington as well. For example, applying for a building permit for a storage area or garage and get it finalized and approved by the building department, and 2 months later applying for a new permit for ADU with some exceptions related to seismic loads and provisions for R occupancies, or an existing garage that is really a substandard condition even with the as it is, and then this is converted again to ADU. So this is what they considered a loophole, and this is what was the intent for this new section. So we agree on yes on the cost and no need for local amendment, for state amendment. Okay.
I do.
Chapter 6, classification of work. Again, I didn't see any name. So I added this. It's related to alteration level 1, the scope for level 1 alterations, and it's related to furniture. And it doesn't add any cost. And I didn't consider this will need an amendment.
That makes sense to me.
Okay, going to chapter 6. Just let me double check something. Okay, 6. I found only one. There are some changes. In the code, but they didn't seem significant. So I added only one, 603.1, and this is all I have. So chapter 7, chapter 8, 9, 10, and 11. I didn't have any TAC members there, and I didn't have enough time to finish those. So if we have volunteers, I will appreciate a little help on those.
Anyone interested in helping out with those?
I'll do chapter 10, if that's helpful.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Anyone want to take a look at alteration levels? Sue, you're going through an alteration. Is that even though it's residential?
Yeah, I can take a look
at.
at. Well, if somebody can help with some of these, the IBC significant changes, I don't mind doing some of the IEBC. I could do the 7, 8, and 9. You can put me down for that.
Okay. Okay. And I will help on the IBC.
Okay.
Chapter 11, additions. Volunteers?
I'll grab it, Stoyan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
We have, so Andrea sent me her work for chapter 12 and chapter 12, 14, and 15. And you see this with highlights because the spreadsheet you have that I sent you, they don't have these chapters. This is why you see this highlighted. Andrea, do you want to talk about those, or we can just, I know we discussed this, three chapters. We discussed it, and I think the last meeting we had in December.
Yeah, so the first two are more editorial changes in verbiage, rather than anything too crazy. I put those in the comments, so you can see those. And then it seemed like 1204.9 just kind of like broaden the language to allow for more materials or coatings to be used for fire retardants for interior finishes. So I think that was very significant change in terms of cost or amendments. So that's that for chapter 12.
So for 13, I'm not sure if somebody worked on it. The ICC significant changes book doesn't show anything on 13, anything for chapter 13. There are some changes I can see in the book, you know, looking at the sidebars, but I'm not sure if we have evaluated that.
If ICC didn't see anything as significant, I wouldn't. I mean, we could briefly look through it, but I would trust them on that. And exactly 0 people use that chapter, but
Okay.
or maybe 1.
I've never opened it to be honest.
It's really rough. It takes a lot of designer work, and so it just isn't used because it's a lot of architect work that is not worth their effort most of the time.
Okay. Let's go to 14 then.
All right, so 14, there was only one. It basically gave a pointer to ICC 300 to follow the requirements within that. I wasn't sure what our state adopted in terms of that. So if we don't have that within the code, we might want to consider having it as an amendment to IEBC, but it makes sense that bleachers and grandstands and stuff would have some requirements, and I think they put it in the IEBC just to make sure that people were following the code requirements for those things. So yeah, I'm not sure if we have anything that references ICC 300, or if we want to, or if we want to add an amendment, but I'm going to leave that up to the tag members.
All right. Thank you, Andrea.
Yep. And then so for chapter 15, there was a bit there for 1501.2.1. it seemed pretty obvious that they would want to have a load capacity for basically installing roof components, making sure that everything that's up there could withstand the loads. So that seemed to make sense, and I didn't think there was any cost or anything that was required. And then for the next one, 1502.2, I wasn't sure on the cost here, but it does say that the excavation retention systems should be designed by a design professional. And so that does open up the opportunity for adding cost. However, I didn't know what that would be and if it was minimal or quite large. So maybe some of the tag members have input for that. Then the next one, 1509.1, it just adds clarity to water supply and fire flow requirements. And then the next ones, that the next like 4 basically covers more on the fire flow and like separation parameters. And so I am not very familiar with IFC and was wondering if we should ask them, or if any of you on the tag know what's included, or if this isn't even included at all in IFC. So
Yeah, Andrea, let me see if I can catch up real quick on those. That soil retention one, that sounds like shoring to me, which it is totally normal to require a design professional on. So I think that's probably a clarification more than a cost. We practice, I mean, if it's more than 4 feet tall and it's holding back dirt, we always require design professional. So I think that's probably not an increased cost necessarily.
Would Chris change this to no?
I would say so, because I can't think of a time when we would allow shoring without a design professional involved.
Yeah. Okay.
Generally speaking, if you don't want to have a design professional involved, you need to have a big enough site where you can, grade it out without a significant slope. And then the context of 1509, I'll probably need to look at closer. And I can do that before the next meeting. Those all seem like normal things as far as there being water available. But what it looks like to me is it's more specific than the requirements in the IFC. The IFC is usually very approved in italics when it comes to water availability and fire flow, which is subjective to the jurisdiction. So if these are very specific requirements, it's probably kind of nice from a developer's perspective in that it would be a certainty rather than a depends on where I'm working. But I can look at those specific sections before the next meeting if that's helpful. Off the top of my head, though, I don't see a direct correlation between them and the fire code.
Okay, we can keep it for the last meeting. Okay, this is all. We have appendices. Well, let me ask you this question. I'll use my new wildcard this time. We have a bunch of appendices here related to seismic strengthening and other seismic provisions, and I'm not sure if the council has ever, or technical advisory groups have ever evaluated those. These are appendices. We don't do much work on these appendices, so I left them alone, but let me know if I'm wrong. There are some changes to these appendices, but again, they are not adopted by the council statewide. They are by jurisdictions if adopted by local ordinance. So this is why you don't see the appendices on the spreadsheet, but
Okay.
I want to raise the question. So if you have better information and knowledge than me, I can add them.
It may be that a lot of it is the same as chapter 33, so we don't go through the trouble, because you would naturally use chapter 33 in the building code.
Okay.
Which is maybe why it's an appendix and not actually in the code.
Well, the existing building code is like 1/3 the code and 2/3 appendices.
Yeah. I love it.
And I decided to play lazy this time, you know, and I didn't add the appendices to the spreadsheet. But if you
You
feel
don't
it's
adopt them.
necessary, that's my point. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. There's no sense to look at something we don't adopt as a state
Okay.
unless we want to look at it for adoption as a state. Then I would say, then we need to look at it.
I'm not proposing anything.
Neither am I.
Okay, well, the meeting exceeded my expectations. I guess we got it done for 1 hour. Again, I appreciate any help, but if you don't have time, I know you're busy in your work and your life. So if you don't have time, let me know in advance, and I will work on whatever is needed. I just got overloaded the last couple or 3 weeks, and I couldn't finish more than a few chapters.
For clarification on when the homework needs to be done, when the next meeting is next week, or is it 2 weeks from now?
No, the next meeting should be next Wednesday. If you prefer another day, we can do it another day.
No.
Okay.
It will take as long as I have to do it. So if I know it's next week, I'll get it done.
Next week, the council meeting is on 18th. We have standing committee meetings on 17th. So I want to have everything done by 16th and make it available for the standing committee to approve.
Okay.
If we are late, it really derails the process because we're in a really short time frame.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you, everyone, Stoyan. Thank you for everything. Yeah, I'll adjourn the meeting if there's nothing else. All right.
We have other business, but I assume that.
Oh, other business. You're right. Do you have other business?
No, I don't.
Okay. Anyone else have any other business? All righty. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll meet back next week.
Thank you for your help.
Good.
Thank you.